So, AJ, do you know how to have great deals? I mean, I'm talking big deals, huge deals. Do you know how to make that happen?
Um, Big question. To be honest, probably not.
It's real simple. And guys, we all need to start doing this. Think big.
Okay, George. Normally, you're really good about keeping your advice very practical and very, you know, actionable. But this kind of feeling like that vague magic bullet stuff that you'll see on YouTube a lot.
Welcome to the Live Truly Free podcast.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do. No, seriously, we're going to jump into this because this is going to help you making great deals. And what it's exposing in me, to be really honest, is I think too small. And I think we kind of all do. What's interesting about that is I wrote about this in my book. So my book, The Next Level Entrepreneur, Focus Your Passions, Map Your Directions, Build a Great Company, it's letters from a young wannabe entrepreneur named Max. And he writes this seasoned tycoon in New York City who's an entrepreneur, Mr. A. And the letters are set in 1941. The correspondence extends over 5 years. And through it, you'll learn my entire strategic process, the Next Level Navigator. So early on in the book, there's a letter called Slices of Pie. And Max is writing Mr. A in response to Mr. A's question. Now, here's the question Mr. A asked. Whose world do you think is actually larger, yours or mine? Or to state it conversely, whose world has more limitations?
So Max here, he's basically asking Mr. A because he sees Mr. A in New York City with his big business empire. And it just seems like Mr. A can do whatever he wants. Any idea he has, he can make it happen. He has all the resources in the world at his disposal. Where Max is sitting in Saline, Kansas, saying, I don't have access to any of that. And he kind of feels boxed in. It's almost like there's a scarcity of resources, and he has to just fight for even a little bit of what he wants or can think of.
Yeah, and the other dynamic in this, and Max is kind of careful about this, so he's not. But there's an age thing going on here because Max is 21 and Mr. A, we don't know how old he is, but he's much, much older. And yet he has way bigger dreams. And I would think, like the younger guy, AJ, has bigger dreams than George, the older guy. And yet it's fascinating, you know, in that whole dynamic. He goes because at one point he talks about, you've accomplished so much. Do you have any dreams left to do? And what I've discovered with people who think big is they keep thinking big. And people who think small keep thinking smaller and smaller.
Until they listen to this podcast and realize they need to think big.
Yes. And look, guys, we're saying this as much for ourselves as for you. And
I know, because I'm definitely guilty of thinking small.
When you're in a negotiation and you think, well, there's limitations, there's scarcity, there's only one or two possibilities, then that's all you're going to see. And you're going to you may not get a good deal. And by good deal, I mean a deal that's good for both parties.
So to illustrate this, could you use that example from last week with Globo Corp? How were you thinking big in that negotiation?
So what that's about is I share a story of negotiating a deal with a huge company because we're going to buy these production lines. And so we're trying to get a good price. So we want a small price. We don't want to pay a big price. So thinking big is getting a small price. And to do that, I had to think really big about who they are and creatively. Thinking big includes creative thinking.
So it's more about, when you're saying thinking big, it's more about just expanding your horizons of what is possible. It's being big in terms of the amount of a big amount of possibilities is what you want to think of.
Right.
It's not just, this is going to be big because we're going to buy even more assets than we initially wanted.
Guys, you might want to go back and listen to that podcast because we give 3 keys on what makes a good negotiation. So what we're talking about today underlies those 3 keys. This is an attitude to come in with is I'm going to think big about this opportunity. I'm going to think about, like, for example, AJ, if with your startup company, if you were out trying to raise money, how do you do that? Well, you've got to start thinking big.
Yeah, because I have to pitch people to believe that my company is going to be bigger than it currently is.
Yes, kind of, sort of, right? Because look, people want to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves. And if you understand that psychology about people, every human being on the planet walks around that way. You just think about yourself. You don't join organizations or companies or teams or things like that where you go, oh, well, this is going to be smaller than who I am. You think about, wow, I'm part of something big. I'm talking about something that's going to have impact. It's life-changing. It's world-changing. It's casting that vision. That's thinking big. People get excited about that.
So it's not just I need to figure out how I make them think my company is going to be bigger. I need to make them realize that this company is going to be something far bigger than themselves, far bigger than they could have even imagined. And to do that, I imagine I have to have a pretty compelling presentation.
Right. But if you don't think big, you're going to have a tiny presentation.
One that's not convincing. Let's give one that's not pulling people to want to be a part of it.
Right. Let's create a couple of examples. So, like with your company, you've got a device that helps rehab shoulders. Okay. What would you say right now from where you're sitting? What's kind of the vision for the company? Big, small, it doesn't matter. Just what's your actual hope, dream, vision?
Yeah, right now we're just trying to kind of make it in the market in like South Central Texas where we are right now, and start hitting physical therapy clinics here, and then try to expand it to the state and then expand that way. Which now, as we're having this conversation, I'm realizing is pretty small thinking.
So you're talking size, and you're talking about expanding territory, and you're talking about sales. And who benefits? The shareholders.
Yeah.
If you're trying to recruit me to work in your company, and it's all about your company getting bigger, and you're the shareholder, you're going to be wealthier, and I will have helped make you wealthier. That's not the kind of vision that
and in reality
really attracts people.
Yeah, you will not. You'll accept a job offer down the street instead.
Well, people might take the job because it's a good paying job or whatever. But what people really want is more than that. They want to be a part of a mission, a cause, something that excites them. If I'm investing money, like you're trying to, let's say, fundraise and pitch me, you're going to grow your territory. How exciting is that? I mean, oh, look, they're going to make all this money. It's like, but what if, now, I don't think that's thinking big, okay? I think if you even said to me, George, we're going to have sales coast to coast with my shoulder device, I would say that's thinking small.
Okay. So how do you know when you're thinking big?
Try this one. What we want to do with this company is we want to change the entire physical therapy world with a whole new innovative way to rehab injuries.
And we start with shoulders.
We're starting with shoulders.
So yes, we have to start small because that's how startups and small business works. But we have this huge, massive aim at the end that we're going towards.
If you want,
come be a part of our journey.
I've used this for years. It's a massive. Go study the speech of Martin Luther King on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, where he says, "I have a dream that one day," and he lays it out. And that's huge vision. It's not accomplished in a person's lifetime, it's so big. And people flocked to that vision, and they still do. They still quote it. We all know it.
Yeah.
That kind of vision casting is, and actually this is part of my next level navigator process, is the envision sentence. And what I've discovered is, and I've taken numerous companies and individuals through this process, what I've discovered is coming up with a big vision, something that you envision, is really hard. And you almost have to start, you stretch as far as you can, and then you go live it a little, and then you come back and you stretch it even more. And it comes out of who you are. It comes out of identity. It comes out of your passion. And that's what people are attracted to.
Because, yeah. And it's all in how you present it. You have to, it's like sales, right? You have to present it in a way that makes someone believe that it makes sense for them to be part of this journey, and that they're going to be positive. They're going to be a positive contributor on this journey. And because they join the journey, they're going to achieve things greater than they could have ever imagined or they could have ever done by themselves. And that's what you're trying to present somebody. And that's why you need to think big, so that you can bring other people on that mission that they want to do as well.
Correct. So if it's just I have a dream, there's no, okay, how do we tangibly work that out? Okay. So if you're pitching me your company, I'm an investor and you're pitching me and you go, I have a dream that one day we will, all rehab therapy is going to be different and it's going to be way better than it is today. Great. How are you going to get there? You don't know. You just got this passionate dream, like give me $100,000 and I'll see what I can do with it. Well, in my process, we start with the envisioning, but it's called the next level navigator, because where are you going to be in 3 to 5 years? Well, you map that out. We give characteristics, finish lines. What's the markers look like when you cross the line? When you're there, what are some core strategies? What's the reason for doing it? So there's all those are packed into the next level. And then we have next steps. And the next steps are the things you're going to do in the next 6 to 12 months that are going to take you toward the next level. And the next level is going to take you toward what you envision. It's a one-pager. You present that to me as an investor, and you go, the envisioning is that I have a dream. And then you go, 3 to 5 years, here's where we want to be. And in the next 6 to 12 months, here's how we're going to go at it. And here's what we're going to do to get there. You can do this in 5 minutes with this organ. Now, the thought process to put this together takes hours and hours and hours. Okay.
Especially if you want to be able to think big and open up your mind to all the possible ideas for each of those
Right.
next steps and next levels and envisioning. Like, you want to take your time with it, not just, you can't just write it all down in 5 minutes and be like, all right, now I got the keys to success.
Right.
You have to give yourself the space to think big.
Right. We use the book in college classes. So my friend who wrote the foreword, Stephen Takash, he used it in his strategic management classes of senior level class. And what he insisted that they do was they came up with the next level navigator, either for an actual company that they either had or were launching, or it didn't have to be a real company. It could be one that they would like to do someday. And what he made them do was not have any notes. He made them internalize their next level navigator. So as they gave this whole little speech on how it went, from envisioning to next level to next steps, you're totally bought in. And it's so believable because they are speaking at it from their heart.
And then to tie this into deal making, it's like, when you've internalized this and when you've internalized your big idea and also the steps you're going to do towards that idea, and you find a way to effectively present it, when you're trying to make a deal, that person's going to see, oh, they have this vision. They know what their next steps are. My question here is, I'm just thinking out loud a little bit. If you're on the other side of a table in a negotiation, I've just presented this big dream, this big vision. How does that convince you? Okay. Or in your case from Globo Corp in the last time, how does that convince them? Okay, we'll give you the lower price that you want so that you can fulfill this dream or this vision.
Yeah. Okay. So you're thinking out loud. That's not the way you present it.
Yeah, obviously not how I just did it, but
No. So here's the thing is you need to know all of this. Okay. I'm not talking about your PowerPoint slides. I'm talking about speaking from your heart and with your passion. So like in the Globocorp deal, I'm going for a lower price, but I still gave a vision for what we were trying to do to be one of their key suppliers by buying their production lines.
so you tie the vision into how it's going to help them or how it also is beneficial to
It's
them.
all swung to them. Exactly. And you have to be fluent with, because the core to the next level navigator are the strategies. And if you don't have strategy, you're not going to get there. You've got to be able to see how this is going to get you to the vision. So you go, I have a dream that this company will become blah, blah. All right. And look, it's engineering, it's manufacturing, it's production lines. So it's not going to be like Martin Luther King's dream, but it's going to be big. But we don't want it to be like, but we're not going to compete with Globocorp. Size is not the big thing. Yeah. We want to be, we have a dream that we're going to employ hundreds of people in this local area and be, whatever, we're going to be the number one quality maker of these parts, and nobody is going to go anywhere else in the world to buy these parts except to us. See, that's a big dream.
Even though it's a small niche product, like there's small components that go into aviation equipment. Like that's you can't change the world theoretically with that. But you still just made a big vision. Like
you
are changing the world because now all these aviation people, they have high quality products that they can't get anywhere else.
Change thee to that. You're changing that world.
Okay.
See, like in the rehab world, you change the rehab world. You're not changing the world. You're just changing the rehab world. If I never have an injury, I will never encounter your changes.
Yeah.
I will never be a part of your dream if I don't have some kind of physical rehab need.
But to the millions of people who have been injured, I've significantly changed their world.
See, and that's my dream for Live Truly Free is that we build a community of entrepreneurs. This is a big dream. I want to build a huge community of entrepreneurs who want to impact their worlds, plural, for good. And that good is a double entendre. Forever. I want them to keep on impacting their worlds forever. And I want them to impact their worlds for goodness, to make their worlds better.
To drive positive impacts through entrepreneurship.
Right. And so that's why I'm doing this podcast. That's why we've got the YouTube channel. That's why we've got all these things. And it's to give little tidbits. It's to give ideas. And so like today, you start thinking big, it's going to change your world. So to become a part of our community, you can begin by following the podcast, subscribing to our YouTube channel, coming to livetrulyfree.com, get on our email list. Check out this video from last week. We give 3 keys to great negotiations. Until the next podcast, may you live truly free.